Welcome back to the channel, folks. I know it's been a while since I last posted. There's a number of reasons for that, or excuses, whichever way you want to look at it. I still have an IT trouble, so I'm still having to do all this videoing on this iPhone and editing and all that, so that's a bit of a pain. I have done a couple of jobs on the car, but nothing really worth videoing. In a moment I'll show you what I've done. I've also fallen down a massive rabbit hole of Arduino's ChatGPT and electronics. I'll explain why, and it's I'm somewhat out of my depth with this, so it's taken me a bit of a while to get my head around certain things. So I want to be able to control a VVT on the car according to rev base. So my initial plan was just to have a switch I can switch on and off, but that's not going to work. After doing some research, the VVT control on the SC engine needs to be on a proper pulse width modulation thing, and it needs to be at a certain amount according to the revs. It sort of comes in high, then tapers off as the revs go up, which is opposite of the way I thought it would work, if I'm honest. So a bit of ignorance on my part there. I'm also very ignorant to electronics and all that sort of thing, so I'm really out of my depth, so so you have to bear with me, but I am determined to have a go at making my own little box of tricks to control the VVT and keep the carburetors. Motorsport Electronics do an aftermarket ECU for this, but it's quite pricey. I think it's, for going from memory, it's about 700 quid or thereabouts, so it's quite a lot of money for something which I might be able to build myself for about 20 quid as it happens. So we'll see. If all else fails, at least it'll be a learning curve and you can come along for the ride. So I'll show you what I've done so far and I'll explain what my plans are properly. So jobs I have done, you'll notice we now have dark patches there, which is the inner quarter door card thingy, so I've made some of those up. Not a lot has changed in here otherwise. We now have the rear parcel shelf, which is an aftermarket fiberglass thing, so that's in place. We now have a rev counter that doesn't work because I've destroyed that in my ignorance of electronics. We'll come back to that in a moment. I think that's all I've really done in here. Nothing much has changed down the back end. I think I had the battery in place last time on the video. I really should have looked at the video before I did this. It's been such a long time since I've done anything really significant on the car. I've forgotten where I am. I need to order some tyres and refurb the wheels. My plan is to stick with the 13s. I was going to go to 15s, but after backwards and forwards in my head about it and looking at a couple of pictures, I think I prefer the 13s. My plan is to go gold with those. I quite like the look of the gold wheels. So, in the engine bay. So coming off of down here, for the tack pickup, I've got both coil negatives tied together through a couple of diodes and a Zener diode, which stops the electrics going back in each other. The diode works a bit like a one-way valve, and a Zener diode clamps voltage, allegedly, but I think I may have the wrong one in there. So my initial plans were to use this to tap into this feed here from the coils to get a pulse signal for the Arduino to read, to give an output for the VVT. But that's gone horribly wrong, because in my ignorance, the signal was all over the place, very spiky. And doing some research, I thought that a capacitor would even that out. But all the capacitor's actually done, as it happens, is sent a signal back up that cable, which I don't know how it's managed. Oh no, sorry, back down that way to the rev counter and fried that. So right then, so what we have here is an Arduino microprocessor card thing, which are just these are peanuts. They're really cheap. They're about £5, and it's amazing what they can do. We have a little module here, which I will be changing for. I've ordered some of these little bits. This is on the end of the Hall effect sensor. So that'll pick up the magnet. We'll come back to that in a second. We also have a little oscilloscope. You can see how little it is, just that it is literally that size. So what's that, about 2 inch by 2 inch screen on it. So that, again, cheap cheerful thing off eBay, already made, only about 15 quid if I remember rightly that was. And a program. Now this is where ChatGPT has come in, because this program has been written entirely by AI. It blows my mind that's possible. So you get onto ChatGPT, tell it what you want. What I have learned, you've got to be very specific with what you want, otherwise it makes mistakes. So I just put in there, I have an Arduino Uno, I have this particular Hall effect sensor, and I add a photograph of it, and there's a little module down here as well, which has a couple of MOSFET transistors on them, which we'll come back to what that means in a second. Told it what I got, told it what I want to do, that I want to use it to pick up a pulse signal using a magnet. And where's my magnet gone? It was here just now. It's probably stuck to something. Which you should, there it is. So that picks up a pulse. I wanted to pick up a pulse signal from a magnet, and it wrote the code. It's remarkable, and it works. So you'll see if I put a magnet up against that reader there, the Hall effect sensor, it'll pick up that magnetic field. So the idea is to put that on a pulley, so it goes round and round, and it picks it up once for every one revolution. And if I do that on there, you can see what I mean about the nice square wave. So it's off, on, or on, off, the other way around as it happens. But as that goes like that, as it's passing backwards and forwards, the Arduino can read that really easily and do something with it, rather than self-destruct from a spiky signal. And that currently outputs a signal up there. And my plan is to make a little module so it'll output the signal to this little LCD screen, and I can have that in the dashboard somewhere so I can keep an eye on what's going on. So that's the basic setup. So once I got this glued in place, or even I've got a smaller magnet here which is probably going to be better. It does exactly the same thing. I get it like that. So that would probably just work just as well. And it'll be less mass on the pulley. So I need to get that in place, make a little holder, and figure out and see what it does with the engine running. Okay, so I'll talk about MOSFETs. This is a MOSFET. It's a transistor, a specific type of transistor. Power goes in. In fact, I've got one set up here very briefly, which is set up for I was messing about with the Arduino trying to learn about MOSFETs and pulse width modulation. So small power goes in one side, heavy power goes in the other side. That's probably the heavy power that side. Small power goes in that side, and out the middle you can ground. So these tend to ground rather than send power to, depending on which type you get. And the simple way of explaining these, without going into detail, which I don't fully understand anyway, is they act a bit like relays, but these will switch very, very rapidly. So you could put pulse width through a relay, but it'd buzz. It'd just make a buzzing noise, and it'd be annoying, and probably burn out quite quickly. But these will take very high frequency and be switched on by milliamps. So you can use milliamps to switch them on, and they will shift fairly hefty amperage. I think this one's rated at 40 amps, believe it or not, and look how tiny it is. This one is for a 3D printer, so for the hotbed. So you can see that's heavy voltage in that side, heavy voltage out. The actual switching circuit is over here, and again, just millivolts. So it's that's what a MOSFET does. So you can use it. So that means you can use the small voltages that these produce to turn hefty things on and off. Righto, so a bit more progress. So what we have now, let's reset this. Now we have a nice little display to go with it. And I've also changed out this module here for an actual little Hall effect sensor there. So if I chuck a magnet near that, you'll see we get output. This is running completely independently now of the PC as well, on its own power supply, little 12-volt power supply at the moment, which is being regulated down with this little module here to 5 volts. So all this will run off of that. So we are making some progress here. So we can now run this independently of PC power and take it from 12 volt from the car, which should be safe because once it's regulated down through this to a stable 5 volt, we should be able to use it. So here we have a Hall effect sensor with a 10k resistor between the two positive and the voltage out, and the center one, which is the earth, covered up. So I'll get some heat shrink over that now and tidy that up. So a bit of heat shrink over it all to keep it insulated, about half about, and we'll tin the other side and stick them, there's some, tin the other side of those and use them, stick them in our board and see what happens. Alright, now we're tied into our breadboard. We now have a sensor which we can play with. Not the most attractive thing yet, but it's all a bit of a development at the moment. So let's go see what we can do with that. Right, okie dokie. Now I've just got a magnet on the end of there, you can see it's not spinning around there. But I hold the very close to the magnet, we get an RPM signal. It's not very accurate, but the weird thing is, it seems to be picking up a signal from somewhere else. Is the cam goes around half the speed of the crankshaft, so we're only picking up half the signal, so I need to go back to the drawing board on that one. Okay, with this running on its own battery, I'm not getting any interference. I don't know how well you'll see that on the camera, but that's ticking over nicely. Very dodgy looking bracket there to hold the sensor in place with a magnet. Right, give that a rev. You'll see that blue light coming on there, which is turning on the VVT. So, progress. We've also altered the program here slightly with the help of ChatGPT to times the revs by 2, because it's taking a pickup off a cam which runs at half crank speed. So that gives us another correct RPMs, hopefully. The other thing I've done as well is, this is a shielding cable I've used for this, the Hall sensor. I've taken the shielding and grounded that. So maybe that'll deal with the noise I'm picking up. So what I might do is connect this back to the car electrics and see if it'll run with the 12 volt from the car, which would be nice if it does. This is still picking up weirdness from somewhere. That's all over the place. So grounding that hasn't helped. Maybe I need to think about getting my 12 volt from somewhere else, not near the alternator perhaps. Okay, okay, that's looking a bit more promising. So I've only spare relays. Got this one going as an ignition live relay now for VVT, and that appears to be working okay. So being over there, it must have been picking up something off the alternator. Okay, next challenge is try wiring the VVT through that MOSFET. Righty ho. Oh, looks very Heath Robinson. So I've got our VVT live feed from our relay and earth running through that MOSFET arrangement there. and then down to a common earth with everything else. So theoretically this should work. Let's see what happens. Constantly. As soon as I plug the VVT in, even with it ticking over below the threshold, which is 1500, as soon as I plug it in, that's turning the VVT on. You can hear it. Ah, okay. Maybe I've got that back to front wire in there. Okie dokie, that seems to be better. I did those two cables back to front on the MOSFET. So now we're ticking over nicely. VVT signal. I think that's working. It's revving quite happily. Okay, happy days. Okay, so that appears to be working then. So with this set up the right way around and voltage in and voltage out back to front, because I don't understand what I'm doing basically. So now what we need to do is make a nice casing for all of this, which I think I'll probably do for the next video. So I think that'll be enough for this video. So we've done what we set out to do, which was get a VVT control working of some description. Right, okay, I've withdrawn to the warmth of the house for the outro video. So I think we've cracked it, hopefully. We appear to have VVT control over the engine at last. That's taken quite a long time, as you can tell by how long it's been since I last put a video up. And it's mostly been for that. I have been busy with work and life and other things as well, and I've had to get the MX-5 through the MOT, and let's get to other life a little bit, but a lot of it has just been down this rabbit hole of electronics. So thank you for bearing with and being patient. Thank you for your messages as well. One or two of you seem to be a bit concerned I've gone off the radar, so I appreciate that. Thank you for your thoughts. And hopefully we'll get this working. And next time we'll start putting some box together, probably use a 3D printer for that, and make up something for the display to fit, and see if I can work out why my rev counter's died. It's weird because when I turn the ignition on, the needle goes up and down, but it doesn't pick up the signal from the engine anymore. So maybe the little diodes that I've got coming from the coil pack have self-destructed. So I'll look into that again. But thanks for watching. See you in the next one.